The Window Facing West. Every evening at exactly 5:30 p.m., Martha Collins pulled her chair closer to the window that faced west. At 60 years old, her hair had turned a soft silver, and the fine lines on her face told stories of laughter, sacrifice, and silent endurance. From her window at Golden Meadows Retirement Home in Ohio, she watched the sun melt into shades of orange and crimson, just as she had done years ago from the porch of her family home. But back then, she was never alone. Martha had once lived in a small white house in suburban Ohio with her husband, Daniel, and their 3 children, Michael, Aaron, and little Emily. Daniel used to call her the heart of the house. He worked long hours at a manufacturing plant, and Martha stayed home, pouring her energy into raising their children. She packed lunches with handwritten notes tucked inside. She stayed up late sewing Halloween costumes. She clapped the loudest at school plays and baseball games. When money was tight, she quietly sold her wedding bracelet to pay for Michael's college books. When Aaron broke his leg in high school, she slept on a hospital chair for 3 nights straight. When Emily wanted piano lessons, Martha cleaned neighbors' houses to afford them. She never complained. "Mom, you worry too much," her children would laugh. And she would smile, because worrying was love in her language. Then, Daniel died. It was sudden, a heart attack on a cold November morning. One minute he was drinking coffee, the next he was gone. After 40 years of marriage, Martha felt as though someone had removed the ground beneath her feet. The house that once echoed with family dinners and birthday songs became unbearably quiet. At first, the children visited often. They helped with paperwork, fixed the leaking sink, and insisted she wasn't alone. But life moved on. Michael became a corporate executive in Chicago. Aaron started his own tech business in California. Emily moved to New York after her marriage. They called sometimes. "Mom, I'm so busy this week." "Mom, I promise I'll visit next month." "Mom, I know I love you, right?" And she did know. She truly did. But love over the phone could not fill the empty chair across the dinner table. One winter, after Martha slipped on the icy driveway and fractured her hip, the children gathered and made a decision. "It's for your safety, Mom," Emily had said gently. "You'll have nurses and company," Michael added. That was how she arrived at Golden Meadows. Her room was clean and warm. The nurses were kind. Other residents smiled politely in the hallways. But it wasn't home. On her first night there, she cried quietly so no one would hear. She clutched Daniel's old sweater and whispered, "I didn't think it would end like this." Days turned into months. She developed small routines, morning tea at 7, crossword puzzles at 9, knitting in the afternoon. She made friends with Eleanor down the hall who told the same stories over and over. She learned the names of the nurses' children. But every Sunday she dressed carefully in a pale blue cardigan, brushed her hair, and waited. Sometimes her children came, sometimes they didn't. When they did visit, they stayed an hour at most. They checked their phones often. "Mom, the traffic is terrible." "Mom, I have a meeting." "Mom, the kids have soccer." She nodded understandingly each time. She never wanted to be a burden. One evening, as she sat by her west-facing window watching the sunset, a young volunteer named Sarah approached her. "Mrs. Collins, what are you thinking about?" Sarah asked softly. Martha smiled faintly. "I'm thinking about when my house used to be loud. I used to wish for quiet sometimes," she chuckled gently. "Funny how life gives you exactly what you ask for." Sarah squeezed her hand. That night, Martha couldn't sleep. She pulled out an old photo album she kept in her bedside drawer. There were pictures of scraped knees, birthday cakes, graduation caps, and family road trips. She traced each face with her trembling finger. "I gave you my youth, and I would do it all again." The next morning, she made a decision. Instead of waiting for visits, she began writing letters. To Michael, she wrote about how proud she was of his success. To Aaron, she told him she admired his courage to start a business. To Emily, she described how much she loved hearing about her grandchildren. But at the end of each letter, she added one simple sentence: "I don't need much, just a little of your time." Weeks passed. Then one Sunday afternoon, something unusual happened. Michael arrived first, without his phone in hand. Aaron came shortly after, flying in unexpectedly. Emily walked in with tears already forming in her eyes. They had all received her letters. "Mom," Emily said, kneeling beside her chair, "we didn't realize." Michael's voice trembled. "We thought you were strong. We thought you were okay." Martha looked at her 3 grown children, the same ones she once carried in her arms, and smiled gently. "I am strong, but even strong hearts get lonely." The room filled with silence, thick and heavy with unspoken regret. Aaron took her hand. "We've been so busy building our lives, we forgot you built them for us." For the first time in years, Martha felt something shift. They began visiting more often, not out of obligation, but intention. They stayed longer. They listened to her stories. They brought the grandchildren. Laughter slowly returned to her Sundays. It didn't change the past years of loneliness, it didn't bring Daniel back, but it reminded her that love, even when delayed, can still return home. One evening, months later, Martha sat again by her west-facing window, but this time Emily's daughter sat beside her, braiding her silver hair. "Grandma, were you ever young?" the little girl asked. Martha laughed, her eyes shining. "Oh yes," she said softly, "and I spent my youth loving your mother and her brothers." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across her face. She no longer feared the quiet, because now she knew her life had not been wasted in sacrifice. It had grown into something larger, something lasting. And though her hands were wrinkled and her steps slower, her heart, after everything, was finally at peace.